Hello everyone and welcome. In today's webinar, we'll be talking about how online meetings can be made easy for the modern SMBs using the new Skype for Business functionalities. So this webinar will primarily focus on the SMB point of view, but as we invited our partners, I'm sure that this content will also be relevant for the many of you who also joined today's webinar. My name is Simon. I'm glad to join you today. I'm the Office 365 strategist at ShareWeb, and I'm joining us today. We have Anchor Aurora, who is Microsoft business development for the strategy for Skype for Business, E5, and CRM Online in the CSP channel. So he's probably one of the most knowledgeable experts in the world for today's topic. And how are you, Anchor?
Very good, Simon. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure hosting this webinar today, where we'll focus on how Skype for Business actually helps us achieve a pretty high level of productivity in everything that we do.
Well, thank you for joining us from Microsoft headquarters in Seattle, I think. We're certainly glad to have you with us because I'm sure we're going to get some challenging questions and we hopefully are going to answer them properly. So before starting, I want to talk about some information on this webinar. All participants are muted, but we do want to hear and hopefully answer all your questions. So I encourage you to use the question tabs in your GoToWebinar participant panel, and we'll try to answer all of them directly by writings during the presentation, and we'll also pick a few of them which are relevant to everyone during 3 specific moments during the presentation and answer to all verbally. So for today's agenda, Anchor will start with the latest SMB trends about web conferencing. He will then explain how the new Skype for Business features answers today's SMB's needs and demo the modern meeting experience and the modern voice experiences. So that's going to be pretty interesting, I think. So without further wait, Anchor, I pass you the control and the floor will be all yours.
Thank you, Simon. Let's probably get started with looking at some of the trends that we are seeing in the industry. And this is across the board. What we recently did was we conducted an extensive survey of 550 small and medium businesses. These were 6 to 150 employee organizations, and we were really focusing on getting a better understanding on how do these organizations use web conferencing and what are some of the challenges, as well as price points. What we were surprised was that 18% of these in US, UK, Canada, Europe actually pay for more than 2 conferencing solutions today. And one of the reasons is that there are very, very few conferencing solutions that address all the needs under the same solution bucket. So they actually pay to more than 2 vendors for their web conferencing needs. And we were also pretty shocked at the amount of money that was being spent per user per month for just the conferencing requirements. So on an average, it's actually $24 per user per month that SMBs spend today just for the conferencing needs. That's a very, very high spend. What we also figured out was that since the amount of money was so high, the per user per month spend was so high, most of the organizations actually go ahead and share the credentials that are needed for setting up meetings, and it varies from 3 to 5 to 15 depending on the size of the organization. A massive pain point is that about 51% of SMB organizations today have a common user ID and password that's used across the organization. And although it does help reduce the costs, the challenges that it poses to the organization is that they are not really sure on who shared what information and who used the meeting for how long, who were the attendees, etc. Because it's very difficult to nail that down when everyone in the organization is using the same user ID and password. So it does affect the confidentiality leakages that happen. And if you look at the top three paid services in this segment, it's GoToMeetings, WebEx, and it's Skype for Business. Now, an important thing about the Skype for Business part is that a lot of SMBs actually use the free Skype, but they go ahead and load dollars or euros into their account so that they're able to do basic audio conferencing when it comes to Skype. And these are the top three paid services which we figured as a part of our study is what SMBs use. So this is really the landscape. Basically, a lot of money getting spent just on conferencing needs, multiple providers going ahead and providing point solutions to SMBs, 18% of them spending money on more than two paid conferencing solutions. Now, with this landscape in mind, what we really want to do over the next few, I would say next half an hour or so, is to really relook at what Skype brings to the table from a value proposition perspective. But before we do that, I just wanted to take a step back and really go a little deep into the vision. So 1876, this is where the first hello was spoken. This was basically the first long-distance one-on-one call. 1940, this is where the whole concept of a private branch exchange, or what's commonly called as PBX, and public switch telephony network, which is also called a PSTN, came into being. And this was basically the second turning point in the world of telephony and how we consume voice. This was 1940. We're talking about 2016 today. 2000 was the year when we actually saw for the first time the convergence of voice and data, and this was using VoIP or voice over IP, where the whole concept was that, hey, we now have the ability to go ahead and work from home, use our phone number to go ahead and dial into any conversation, but that was a lot on the consumer side. So for about 60 years, nothing much had changed. Way back in 2003, this is when Skype as a product line was born, addressing the needs of consumers. And we introduced the whole concept of SIP, or session initiation protocols, that actually started allowing large-scale collaboration and really democratization of video as a service. And this was way back in 2010. 2014 is when we saw the interoperability between Link and Skype come in for the first time. So a convergence of the business side and the consumer side, keeping the user as a fulcrum or as the focus. And in December 2015, which was last year, we really went ahead and explored communication really as a utility service for the masses, really looking at it as a common denominator when it comes to communication. And we are constantly striving to redefine how we interact with voice at Microsoft, and we will see a bunch of innovations coming our way over the next few months, really fueling a very, very productive environment for an end user, whether it is on the consumer side or whether it is on the business side. And there has been a constant cost reduction. There was a time when the cost of a voice call was something around $200 per minute. And the other thing that has happened is really the simplicity of going ahead and using these services. So basically, with one click, We could get into a video call between two conference rooms or a one-on-one, and we'll explore some of these during the demonstration phase. Uh, Gartner has really taken notice, and so has IDC, of what we are really doing. And Microsoft currently is #1 when it comes to new voice seats sold worldwide, when it comes to working with any IP or PBX vendor. And about 79% of the enterprise telephony in the US is all driven by Link and Skype. So this is actually a great validation of the impact that we have had on the industry, on an individual and an organization's productivity over the last few years. We look at Skype through three lenses, or basically three solution areas. And we start with going ahead and saying, hey, complete meeting solution for an individual or for an organization. And this is the whole concept of modern meetings. Basically, everything works from the cloud. Modern voice is when we start adding the voice capabilities, which is a call control, PBX part, as well as a dialing plan. Everything working out of the Microsoft Office 365 cloud. So the productivity infrastructure, emails, Office, online storage, the collaboration space, online meetings, call control, dial plans, everything runs out of the Microsoft cloud, and the end user basically just consumes these services from any device at any point of time. So that's modern voice. We also have a third flavor to voice, and we call this as hybrid voice. This is really a scenario wherein an organization has their own PSTN calling plans, but they want to really integrate that with Office 365 for a great productivity experience. And this is what we term as hybrid voice, where Office 365 and call control, they work out of the Microsoft cloud. And then this gets connected to a customer's or a service provider's PSTN infrastructure or gateways, so that one can start making calls from within Office 365 itself. So these are really the three flavors. We'll focus a lot on modern meetings and a little bit of modern voice today. So let me double click on the modern meetings part. It basically starts with this whole concept that we wanted to go ahead and give a complete meeting experience to our users. And what we figured out was that, hey, when we talk about meetings, it could be a one-on-one call, people could be mobile, they could be working in an open space, they could be doing something like what I'm doing right now. I'm sitting in my office and I'm basically being able to reach out to 400 odd people online. It could be in a collaborative environment where groups are working together, there's whiteboarding which is happening, there's ad hoc collaboration that's happening. It could also be two conference rooms within the same organization at different locations, basically connected to each other with a very, very live collaboration environment. And then we have gone ahead and unleashed the ability to do a one-to-many conferencing scenario, where at the same time we could basically go ahead and do a webinar touching 10,000 people at the same time, located anywhere in the world. So it's basically a complete meeting solution for any kind of meeting. It could be something that one could be doing over an iPad, an iPhone, a Windows phone, an Android tablet, a Mac, or a PC. It could be a set environment in a conference room or in a room. It could be a very large broadcast environment where you're reaching out to thousands of people at the same time. So that's really the value proposition. Now, apart from the capabilities that Skype and Office 365 are bringing together, which was contextual collaboration, we basically added a few more capabilities. One of them is the Skype meeting broadcast capabilities, and this is where one could reach out to tens of thousands of people at the same time. Incidentally, what it does is it leverages the Azure Content Delivery Network to give a great meeting experience, which also has DVR capabilities. So For example, if we were doing this meeting over Skype meeting broadcast, you could basically pause this broadcast at any point of time, go grab a coffee, come back, and do a play or a rewind, and that would be your experience. It's just like sitting in front of a cable and basically doing a fast forward, rewind, pause, etc. So it's basically a great meeting experience. It also combines Yammer in the back end so that when it comes to polls or whiteboarding or Q&A or more content sharing, it's really an integrated experience. What we've also introduced is PSTN conferencing, basically an audio bridge powered by Microsoft, which is eat all you can kind of an audio bridge. There's no limit to the number of meetings or the number of hours that the bridge is actually used. It's basically a fixed flat fee, and we're powering that in about 90 countries worldwide. So every country, any attendee would really have a local number for all practical purposes to dial into a conference call. And the organizer could, at any point of time, dial people in on their mobile phone or their landlines into a call directly. So that's basically the PSTN conferencing capabilities. And this is basically what the dial-in and dial-out look like. So every time a meeting gets set, there are a bunch of numbers that users can use to dial in, or they could go ahead and find their own local number, which would point to the nearest number in their region, or the organizer could directly decide to go ahead and dial anyone into the conference on the audio bridge. And when someone is actually joining a meeting, and that's the beauty, it's basically joining at your own terms. And I'm going to show this to you in the next few minutes. One could join the meeting using the full Skype experience, or one could say, hey, Skype, call me at my landline or my mobile phone, or hey, I don't want to join the audio, maybe I just want to see what's happening on the meeting. So it's basically interacting with meetings at your own terms. When we look at the total cost of ownership as compared to what some of our competitors offer, let's pick up WebEx as an example. It costs about $69 per user per month to go ahead and buy a WebEx meeting solution with up to 100 attendees. If I look at the SureWeb pricing, the Skype for Business online meeting solution would cost anywhere between $5.49 to $12, and these are one-on-one or one-to-many meetings with up to 250 attendees coming into the regular meeting. Now, if we do a double-click on the WebEx meetings, let's say we want to do a 60-minute meeting with 5 attendees, the audio bridge would cost something like $0.02 per minute of usage, which is for 5 attendees for 60 minutes, this would be a $6 cost. If you're going with the $5.49 option from SureWeb, this would basically include the PSTN conferencing add-on, which is the conferencing bridge powered by Microsoft. Now, if you look at the cost of the second meeting on WebEx, it would, again, with 5 people for 60 minutes, it would cost another $6, which basically means that by the time we do our second meeting on WebEx, we are spending $12 in addition to the $69. The third meeting, it would be $18 in addition to the $69. And on the Microsoft side, after spending the first $5.49 per user for the first user, who is the initiator, there's actually no additional cost for using the audio bridge. Cisco also has a large event center kind of a solution that's $479. It allows us to schedule meetings with up to 1,000 attendees. On the Microsoft side, the Skype meeting broadcast, where we can reach out to 10,000 people at the same time, along with DVR capabilities and Yammer integration, that's actually just a part of the basic solution. There's no additional cost associated with that. So this is how a TCO actually looks like when we compare something like a WebEx to a Skype solution. Very similar is what you would see a comparison of GoToMeetings again to a Skype solution. And what we found out was that we could potentially help organizations save anywhere between 60 to 65% of their conferencing spend today and also provide a great productivity experience in the same money. Uh, let's take a look at what the modern meetings experience looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically pull up an Excel sheet right now. I'm going to show two scenarios. The first scenario is we are trying to do ad hoc collaboration with content. Simon, I just want to do a double check. Can you see the Excel sheet on the screen right now?
Yes, totally.
Okay, so I'm starting with an Excel sheet from scratch. Let me go ahead and let's say pick up one of the great templates that Microsoft Excel actually provides. What I'm looking at basically a template that Excel has given me for a P&L statement. Now, I want to basically collaborate with people in my team on this P&L statement. And a traditional way of doing this would have been I would have saved this file locally on my system, and then I would have sent out an email with an attachment to all the people I wanted to collaborate with. Now, this was version 1 of the document going out. Everyone would make their own respective changes and do a reply all. So let's say if there were 5 people on that mail thread, I would basically get back, or everyone would get back 5 different versions. I would then spend a lot of time and energy compiling all those versions together to send out version 7 of the document, which would again be a reply all. In the next iteration, I would get 6 documents again. So this is how traditionally people have been collaborating with each other, really inefficient. Now, a slightly different way of going ahead and doing this is I'm on this document. I basically want to go ahead and say, hey, can I share this document with my colleagues, and can we start working with each other real time? So there's a share button on top. When I hit that, what Excel tells me to do is it says, hey, why don't you save the document on the cloud? And this is basically the OneDrive integration. Let me go ahead and call this as PNL T1. And I am going to get Microsoft Office to help me with the collaboration experience. So what Office 365 has done is it's gone ahead and stored this document at a central location. It says, hey, now that the document is centrally available, why don't you go ahead and invite people to work with you real time? Let me see if Rebecca is actually online. Now, one of the great things that's happening over here is this is a real-time integration between Office 365 services, Skype services, and I can actually see presence information as I start typing in people. I see Rebecca Anthony over here. She's probably tied up in a meeting. That's why we see red from a presence information perspective. I could decide to give her edit rights or view only rights. Let me go ahead and give her edit rights, and I'm going to hit the share button. Now, what Office 365 is really doing for me is it's sending out an email, and let me see if that mail actually goes ahead and appears on my inbox. This is what Rebecca receives. She basically receives an email with a link, and this link will, so there are no attachments over here. This link is going to take her directly to that Excel sheet. So I have Rebecca who can start making changes to it, but this is the beauty. Rebecca and I, we are working at the same document at the same time. We can make changes simultaneously, but because I have a full rich experience for collaboration, at any point of time, I could basically go ahead and say, hey, can I send Rebecca an IM? Or can I go ahead and convert this into an audio call or a video call right from the screen itself? I also know a couple of other things that I can pull. Rebecca has replied. Let me keep this window up. And it's basically this. We've just started real-time collaboration over here right from within Excel. I could give Rebecca a call, which would be a Skype call. We could start a video with a single click, and Rebecca is anyway editing the document as we speak. It just goes ahead and reduces the number of cycles that it takes for people to start working together. Incidentally, if I go to Rebecca's contact card, apart from the basic information about, let's say, hey, can I do an IM? Can I give her a call? Can we start a video? Can I send her an email? I also know where is Rebecca based? What time zone does she work in? What's the organizational hierarchy that she's a part of? And it's basically everything that I need to collaborate with Rebecca coming in the same place. So this is how, from within a document that we're working on, we basically initiate a one-on-one collaboration and communication thread. And it just helps us reduce the cycle times to be more productive in what we do every day. Now, I could at any point of time go ahead and share a link or invite more people in. And Rebecca can also do that because she also has edit rights on the document. So this is how ad hoc unified communication and contextual collaboration really come together to make us more productive. Let's look at a second experience. And now I'm going to get into something which is, hey, how do we do a better job in terms of scheduling meetings? So here is a mail thread between me and Rebecca. And what I want to do is now I want to send her a formal meeting invitation. The typical experience is people would go over here to new item. They would click on a meeting. There's a separate meeting window which would open up. People would come back over here, do a reply all, do a Control-C, go back to that window, do a Control-V, so attendees are taken care of. Now I also need to share context, so I would come over here, do a selection, Control-C, come over here, do a Control-V, and then hit on this meeting that says Skype meetings. And this is what would happen, right? This was a pretty old way of going ahead and scheduling a meeting, but what we realized is a lot of people still go ahead and use this way. I would not do any of these things really in the present world. Don't save changes, okay. I'm going to discard this as well. So I'm on this mail thread, there's context, there are people. I'm basically going to ask Microsoft Office to do all the hard work for me. So I basically did one click, and what Microsoft Office did was it added the attendees, it gave the context for the meeting. I could obviously add more people, and all I need to do is now 2 clicks. One is going ahead and creating this as a Skype meeting. Second is actually choosing an appropriate time. If we have directory integration, it would also allow me to go ahead and pick up a room for this meeting in case we wanted to do a face-to-face meeting. And with this, one would just go ahead and hit the send button, and basically an online meeting gets scheduled. Now, this is what it would look like on my calendar. So here's my calendar. What we see is that this meeting has basically is right over here. I would just right-click on this meeting and say, join the Skype meeting. Now, what Skype fundamentally does is it allows me to choose how I want to join this meeting. It says, hey, do you want to use the full Skype for Business experience that includes audio, video, contextual collaboration, or do you want Skype to call you at a home number, a mobile number, or just entering a new number? Or basically I say, hey, I just don't want to join the audio. Let's basically do a screen sharing mode if needed. So Skype basically gives us that control on not only how we want to initiate a meeting, but also how we want to go ahead and join a meeting. Now, if the mail was going out to multiple people, we could always go ahead and do a tracking to say who has joined, who has not joined the meeting, look at some more meeting options, who has permissions, does everyone become an attendee or a presenter, who are the people who can present, should we just mute all the attendees when they join in, what would be a dial-in number that would get published. These are controls that the end user can basically go ahead and exercise without really leaning on IT. I could also have scheduled a recurring meeting across multiple time zones, or just provided and the ability to go ahead and take meeting notes that would just be consolidated as the meeting was progressing. So It's basically a very, very simplified but a very powerful meeting experience, and this is what we mean when we typically say modern meetings. Uh, I will pause for a couple of minutes over here to take in questions. Simon, in case we have any questions at this stage around modern meetings, let's address those before we jump into modern voice.
Yes, thank you for this timeout. I'm afraid we do have a lot of questions. The question box is on fire. So let's try to filter them a little. We have someone who's using the Mac version of Skype and feels that it's not fully featured and wondering when will features like adding contacts or connect to personal Skype with contacts will be available. Do you have an idea?
Sure. So on the 1st of October, we started the preview for the new version of Skype for Mac as well as for iPhone. This has been designed grounds up to really leverage the power of the Mac environment and the iOS. In fact, so the preview is going on right now, which will last for about a month, and probably in early November, this would basically be released for consumption across the board. In fact, on the iPhone, we are using the native dialer of iPhone. So if you're receiving a call on Skype, it'll actually understand that you're using your phone and you're busy, and it will give you a busy ringtone as well. So we basically designed the Mac and the iOS client or the iPad client grounds up. It's in preview since the 1st of October. The release is expected in the first or the second week of November.
Okay. That's good news. We have a couple of questions in regards to the same type of features. It's talking about the installed apps. So one of them is, does everyone need the Skype for Business installed app on their PC to join? I think you answered that one saying that there is the web app that's available for people who doesn't have any Skype app, but someone is asking if an attendee can join with the Skype personal installed app. So is that possible?
Okay, let me address this question in two parts. First, it really today does not make a difference whether you have the Skype app installed or not, as long as you have a device that can connect to the internet. Mm-hmm. But if you are using let's say an Android phone or an Android tablet or a Windows phone, Windows tablet, iPad, iPhone, there are Skype for Business apps which are available in the respective marketplaces that can be installed. But let's say you're on a PC that does not have the Skype client, you could basically just use a browser to go ahead and join and still get a rich meeting experience. So we have basically design these services to work on a browser, any browser, or on the apps which are published on the marketplaces, or the full Skype client which is available for the Windows and the Mac ecosystem. So that's one.
Okay.
Second, basically, if we just continue the same thought process, you do not even need the Skype consumer app to be able to join the meetings, because what it would do is, by default, when you're trying to join a meeting, it would look at either the installed Skype for Business app, or it would basically just go ahead and give you the option of joining the meeting directly from a browser.
Okay.
So it does not really make a difference what kind of device we're using, whether it has the Skype app on it or not. As long as the device is connected to the internet, it's a great meetings experience.
Okay.
That's one. Second, when we are going ahead and inviting external attendees into a meeting, and that's a very typical scenario. So let's say I schedule a meeting where I'm inviting 250 or 300 attendees on a broadcast or on a slightly smaller scale meeting per se. And let's say these attendees are outside my organization. The attendees do not need to have Skype for Business online paid services to be able to join the meeting. They would just be able to join it over a browser, or if they have the Skype app anyway in place, they'll just use that to join in. So external attendees would not need any licensing per se to be able to join these applications,
okay,
or to be able to come in on the audio bridge and use that during the meeting.
Okay.
Uh, so does that answer the first two questions?
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. So basically, whatever you have on your PC, if you attend a meeting, Skype will find a way to connect
That's
you.
correct. That's correct. That's
Um,
correct.
I know we're running short on time, but I have another series of questions I think we can answer very fast that a lot of people are asking, comparing to WebEx and GoToMeeting, and they're
Hmm.
asking, like these options, these offerings, can with Skype for Business, the presenter share the screen plus the video of himself, and is it available these and the recordings of the meeting are available also with Skype for Business?
Great question. I'm just going to the Skype client right now so that we can just look at some of these features. So if I go to tools and I look at options, apart from, the recording manager, which is built in, configuring multiple devices, audio or video, call forwarding services, dial-in conference settings, response group settings, let me just go to per se. And this is all what end users can do without really bothering IT or looking at IT to go ahead and support them. So one is basically going ahead and looking at previous conversations, letting Skype run in the background, logging into Skype by default when the system is on. But I could specify personal details. I could say, hey, update my presence based on calendar information, sync information between Skype for Business and Exchange so that it's seamless. Any conversation that I have on Skype, it gets recorded in the conversation history in my inbox so that I can always refer to previous instant messages, my contact status, pictures, multiple phone numbers that I can go ahead and configure, alerts. From an IM perspective, do a spell check, hide pictures in IM if I want to, copy message name and title, make a change of fonts, use emoticons, have different ringtones for different people in the organization. So, hey, if my boss is calling me on Skype, it's a different ringtone for me as compared to, let's say, a colleague calling in.
Mm-hmm.
These are the audio device settings. I have multiple devices actually configured at the same time, the bunch of devices that I use. Call forwarding capabilities, recording. I could go ahead and say, hey, here is the location where I want to store all my recordings. And I can tell Skype whether it should record in 1080 high definition audio, video, or should I use a 720 HD format or just a 480 pixels format. So I can also define how the audio video recordings need to work. And basically gives me options on how I want to go ahead and join these meetings. Let me see if I can do something right now.
Okay, so that's a pretty deep breadth of features.
That's correct. And this is all within the client. One does not need to go ahead and really involve an IT team to be able to go ahead and do this. What I'm trying to do right now, Rebecca and I had initiated a call. I'm going to basically see if I can start my video right now. This is picking up. So here's the thing. I'm using a Surface, and it has a front and a back camera.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually using my back camera right now. I can, at any point of time, go ahead and say, hey, I don't want to use a back camera for this. Let me go ahead to the video tools, ask Skype to go ahead and use the front camera. So the same thing happens for iPod as well. I'm using my front camera. Let me go ahead and start my video. So in basically a click, what is right now happening is a Skype call is getting placed,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually a video call to Rebecca. Now, she could decline, she could accept, totally up to her, but I could present my desktop. It tells me, hey, which monitor do you want to use? Let me use the main monitor. So I'm presenting my entire desktop. I could give her control, or I could say, hey, I just want to go ahead and use a specific application, or show a staging area, or look at my notes, or share a file as an attachment. I have all these controls as an end user without having to bother IT or having to really relearn a lot of things because we have made it very, very, very simple. Uh, Rebecca can actually see everything right now, which is on my desktop. And let me stop presenting. But this is just to give you an experience of how easy it is to use just a single click. And with the single click, really get into a very, very intuitive way of going ahead and collaborating. This is what the Skype client looks like. I'm in a meeting. It detected that because it's a seamless integration with my Exchange credentials. I could set a location. Oh, by the way, it figures out that I'm already on Pacific Daylight Savings. Here are a bunch of meetings on my calendar. I could just use a dialer to go ahead and dial a number. Or here are a bunch of calls that I've done in the past. Everything is really kept as a track within Outlook. So it actually said, hey, view more within Outlook because it understands that. Now, in the middle of the call, I could say, hey, I want to go ahead and take, or I'm running low on battery, I want to rush to my next meeting. I could just go ahead and say, change my device within the call. I want to take the rest of the call on my mobile phone. So I could basically just go ahead and seamlessly transfer what across devices, a specific call that's live. So this is a very, very simplified experience, extremely powerful at the end user, and just works on any device.
That's great. Thank you.
I'll quickly jump into modern voice. This is basically where we take this one step further and we get into a scenario where the call control, which is the PBX capability, along with Office 365 and dial-in plans, both domestic and international, actually work out of the Microsoft Cloud. What this means is there is zero infrastructure footprint for the customers on their premises for the telephony needs and the productivity requirements, and it's an integrated experience. So whether it is managing calls, doing call forwarding, doing queuing of calls, or basically looking at how the PBX capabilities need to work for end users, it's basically everything running out of the Microsoft services with SLAs, and with the flexibility of going ahead and choosing what kind of devices, whether it's headsets, whether it's Skype certified endpoints, whether it's a Cisco device, whether it's an old conferencing system, doesn't really make a difference. These calling services are available from a resale perspective today in the US, UK, Puerto Rico. We have just announced the preview of these services in France and Spain, and we're going to be covering a lot of geographies over the next few months really, really soon. Let me quickly jump into an experience since we are running short of time. What I'm doing right now is I'm showing you an admin experience. So this is my Office 365 admin console. And what I want to basically do is a very, very simple thing. I want to look at a few users in my organization, and I want to enable them for voice. Now, if I was running a Cisco PBX, I would basically be referring to a 660-page manual. It would take me 3 months to deploy that PBX, test it out, get users onboarded, and associate phone numbers with the users. It's a 3-month process. There's a 660 pages user manual that Cisco has for one to go ahead and do that. I'm trying to do the same experience today out of Office 365. So this is what my admin console looks like. There are multiple admin centers. I want to go to the Skype for Business admin center. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to first look at who are the users in my Office 365 tenant. Are they voice enabled? And if they are voice enabled, can I go ahead and get a phone number from Microsoft and associate that phone number in the next few minutes for that specific user? So I have 9 users in this Office 365 tenant. There are 7 of them, sorry, all 9 of them are enabled for Cloud PBX. I'll go to voice. Here are a bunch of phone numbers I have, which I've already purchased. I can buy 15 more. I could do 2 things. I could buy a new user number, or I could just use a new service number. This could be a conferencing bridge, etc. Now, what I want to do is I want to get a number from Microsoft, and I want to associate that with the user. So let's say the number that I want needs to be based out of US, and let's pick up the state of Washington. I want to pick up a 425 number, which is very, very popular in the Seattle area. I could buy 15. Let me go ahead and buy 2 of these numbers. Now, what this would do is this would go back to the Microsoft pool of available numbers, and it would basically go ahead and say, hey, here are the 2 numbers. Let me see what those numbers are. So I have a 425 318, 7257, and 8754. These are the 2 numbers. I like these numbers. I'm going to basically go ahead and hit on acquiring these numbers. Now, once I've acquired these numbers, it basically is then going to add this to my pool of numbers. So 7257 is what we just acquired. We also acquired 8754. So let me pick up this number. And what it does is it says, hey, who do you want to assign this number to? Now, let me see if I can find a user who is voice enabled. So we have found one Tony Stark. Great. So I can now associate a Tony Stark. The moment I select Tony Stark, by default, Office 365 will also go ahead and find out an emergency location. So the 911 services come into play over here. And I would basically just go ahead and save this. And this is all that I need to do for the purpose of going ahead and getting phone numbers from Microsoft and assigning those numbers to the end users. I'm not going to go ahead and waste a number right now. But what we could also do is we could port numbers. So let's say we come across an organization, they want to retain the PSTN numbers that they already have. They don't want new numbers from Microsoft. That's perfectly okay. We could basically go ahead and port numbers from an existing service provider onto the Microsoft services. This is a typical telco 30-day process. Here are all my voice users and my emergency locations. And then we could run multiple reports as well. So it's really that simple now. From the perspective of going ahead and enabling existing employees or new employees with phone numbers across multiple countries associated with emergency locations. It's basically a few clicks. Now, I was doing this because I was dealing with 1 or 2 users. There are scripts which are available that can actually do this at a much more automated manner that the Office 365 admins can actually go ahead and run. So just wanted to show this quick experience when it came to, hey, how simple is it to associate users and phone numbers, getting in numbers, or basically doing number portings. I want to basically take a pause over here, Simon, again, look at questions, and then hand this over back to you.
Okay, thank you, Hankor, for this awesome overview and demoing. I think we can really see the empowerment and the capabilities that the Skype for Business with conferencing and calling capabilities bring to SMBs. We don't have much questions about the calling specifically, but we do have a lot of questions, and I'm afraid we can't answer all of them. So I think we're going to move forward and have the Q&A, another Q&A at the end for those who doesn't have anything at 1:30. So let me move forward. So here we just wanted to present you a clear table of the differences between the three different main offers when it comes to web conferencing capabilities. So one of the main things we see when looking at these 3 tables is clearly the price. It is almost half the price for Skype for Business, and even lower if you're already an Office 365 customer. So a lot of people are asking, how much does this cost? I do have Office 365 and Skype, but I don't see the how to add a conferencing number to my meeting. Well, you need to add this add-on, this PSTN conferencing add-on at $550 only for the organizers. So you can now create these meetings that Encore showed. So it's very low price compared to the others. And the other thing I would just point out is the maximum number of participants. So with Skype for Business, it's a default 250 users, whereas with the starting plan at $24, you only get 8 and 5 people. So trust me, when you run into meetings, you'll have more than 5 or 8 people needed to attend to these meetings at some point. So that's a good point, a place where I think Skype has good differentiators. Yeah.
Simon, I just wanted to add something on the previous slide, if you could just go one slide back. See, the power that comes in from Skype for Business is really, it's a part of the Office suite. So what we showed was, hey, there's an Excel document, it could have been a Word or a PowerPoint. And how do you really collaborate contextually? So that's something which I don't think any other conferencing solution in the world has today. So that's actually a unique aspect, because the whole idea is that when you're working together in a group or even on a one-on-one, you don't want to jump between applications and then lose context and just spend a lot of time doing copy, Control-C and Control-V. So one is that seamless integration to give a great productivity experience. The second thing is the SMBs that we interviewed who are using a Cisco or a WebEx solution, basically a WebEx or a GoToMeeting solution. They said that the biggest fear factor that they had after stepping out of a call was basically, hey, did someone go ahead and close that audio bridge or not? Because even if there's no one on the audio bridge, if it is not switched off, they're basically incurring charges at $0.02 per minute. So it's like we get into this panic moment sometimes, right? Hey, we get out of the house and did someone lock the door or not?
Yeah.
Right? And so what happens in Skype for Business from the PST and conferencing audio bridge perspective is, even if you had the bridge running and no one was using it, there are no additional charges. It's basically eat all you can. And that is how the total cost of ownership drastically reduces month on month. The third element was webinars. If we wanted to do a webinar reaching up to 10,000 people, it's actually included in the base package itself, as compared to spending $479 to $429 odd dollars per month for just this capability of doing large format meetings. So
and
that becomes a critical,
Yeah, I think I need to jump in here, because I received a lot of questions regarding the fact that we're actually using GoToWebinar for hosting this meeting. And I'd say the only reason why is mainly the integration with our marketing platform, our automated marketing platform. So that's the only reason why we didn't use Skype today. So let me just do a quick presentation of the options for ShareWeb's client. For resellers, you can take a look at your price list for the correct pricing. But for clients, there's basically 3 options that we've shown here. There's a lot more, of course, but the first option is for current hosted exchange customers, where it includes Skype for Business Plan 2 and the PSTN conferencing capabilities. So that's why we call it Skype for Business Conferencing Bundle. So everything that Anchor showed today in the conferencing portion will be is available if you use that plan. But the second option is for existing Office 365 customers who have the Skype services already. So they might be using Business Essentials, Premium, E1, E3. So they would only need to add that conferencing capabilities to their current plans. So it's a very affordable option for hosting online meetings. And finally, the last option is for fully blown new Office 365 clients who want the complete enterprise experience with Office 365. So it includes the conferencing and the calling capabilities that Anchor you showed in the second section. Note that it's only available for US customers for now, but we did have the question, when is it going to be available for Canada? I know you're working on this. Do you have some updates on that?
We're looking at this service being available in Canada over the next I would say 6 to 9 odd months.
Okay.
The services are ready, but what we are typically doing is Microsoft is registering as a telco entity in every country where we launch the calling services, the calling plans, which is modern voice. And it's usually the regulatory requirements that the T's and C's that actually go ahead and play havoc on the launch calendars. So we should be seeing this in the near future. But PSTN conferencing, which is the modern meetings experience, that's available in Canada today.
Okay. Just before we move to the final Q&A, I wanted to give you, to the listeners, an option to try it by yourself. So we're giving to all the webinars attendees a month free on the Skype for Business conferencing bundle. For people who are on Hosted Exchange, for example, and for the PSTN add-on for calling and for conferencing, and for the Cloud PBX for those in the US. So simply mention this webinar to your SureWeb sales agent, and they will be able to apply this promotion to make sure you can test it for free for 1 month and see if it answers everything you need. So we're at the end. We have a lot of questions. I'm sorry for not being able to answer all of them throughout the presentation. We are definitely going to answer them by email if we don't have a chance right now, or if we need to run into another online meeting. But Anchor, do you have a little bit of time, or do you have a hard stop at 1:30?
I have a hard stop at 1:30,
Okay.
basically, which is 3 minutes from now. We could probably take 2 questions.
Okay. Well, one I had was the secure PST. Are PSTN conferencing numbers toll free, or?
Great question. So right now we have numbers which are not toll free, which basically means that attendees would basically incur a PSTN charge for dialing in. What we are launching really soon, which is next quarter, is the ability for organizations to also buy toll-free numbers as their PSTN audio bridges.
Okay. Okay. Someone was asking, I have, is Skype for Business more secure solution? So does it require a better firewall security than other services?
We basically go ahead and follow the same standards that we use for Office 365, because Skype is a part of the Office 365 services. The beauty about Office 365 services is there are 83 certifications that we have in place in terms of data security, data sovereignty, including HIPAA compliance. So when it comes to a Microsoft cloud service, the whole idea is that we are going all out when it comes to protecting our customers' data from any leakages or even virus attacks, for that matter.
Okay. Okay.
But no, you do not need any additional firewalling when it comes to Skype capabilities.
Okay, that's good. Well, I think we're running a bit short, but thanks you very much, Anchor, for your time. We'll let you run into your meetings, and don't worry, everyone else. I took note of your question, and we'll be answering it by email or phone, calling you directly.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Simon. This was a pleasure.
Pleasure was ours. Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.